Hi, as you can see, I'm using the free trial version of Current. There's a 30-day free trial and I only have 7 days left. And unfortunately, I didn't really get to play around with it a lot because I got sick and I'm also still recovering. But I wanted to make at least one video exploring this synthesizer a bit. So let's dive right in. I want to create just a few different sound effects quickly to play around with different functionalities of this synthesizer and with the effects that it has. So maybe let's start with something really simple like a downer. I'm going to use a sine wave and then maybe one of these curves on the pitch, and let's maybe go for roughly 2 octaves here. And with a shape like this, we should have a downer right away. Let's set this to 1 shot. Now we can also make a version with a richer frequency spectrum. So let's just activate the second oscillator here. Maybe give this one a few voices and reduce the width a bit maybe. And also apply the curve to the pitch here. Now we can head over to the effects section right away, because I think this is one of the more interesting parts about this synth. We can change the sound quite a bit with the distortion here. So I'm just gonna go through a few of the presets and see if I like something. This enhances it quite nicely without changing the sound too much. So let's just maybe grab a second distortion. Okay, this is nice as well. Now we can also try the multiband compressor that it has. Maybe just use one of these presets here. And maybe use another one. Maybe give this master envelope a bit of attack. Let's EQ this a bit. I just want to cut some of the mud here, and we can also use this equalizer to cut some of the highs. We can also play around with the shape of this curve here. And I definitely also want this hybrid filter here, which has a really nice functionality. There's low crossover. Wherever you set this, whatever you're doing here does not affect anything below this frequency here. So as you can see, I have the cutoff at 20 Hertz, but it doesn't go below essentially this barrier here, depending on where we set this. So we can also do movement like this. I'll reduce the resonance here, but we can use an LFO for this on the cutoff. Just set this all the way up for now. And let's also change this to Hertz. So I want this kind of movement, and we can actually use our curve for this because it has the exact shape that we need for this. So the lower the pitch gets, the lower the rate of the LFO should be. Yeah, something like this. So this is quite nice. You can use more distortion to change the sound pretty much completely with this, with the more extreme settings here. So you can get some really nice variations with different distortion presets here. You can place the filter at the end of the chain if you want to have a cleaner sound. And yeah, this is okay. So let's just initialize the preset and go for the next sound. We can try a very simple Braam sound here as well. So we'll just use 2 oscillators, pitch one up 2 octaves, and also give it a few voices, just make it a bit wider than the other one. And maybe in this case, we can also use the sub here, and we can also use this direct out function here, which is pretty nice. And we can already head over to the effects section here. And now again, we are going to change the sound quite a bit with all different distortions here. So just layer a few different distortions on top of each other. Maybe another one here with the more aggressive ones. Yeah, something like this. One of the multiband ones here. This changes the sound quite a bit. And it's pretty nice because, I mean, you can also always just go in there and activate, deactivate a few of these, and then you can get different sounds quite easily. Just gonna use the compressor here. Actually like it quite with this default setting, but we can use another one on top of it. This is a quite nice meaty sound. So again, let's just use an EQ. Cut some of the lower mids here, just some mud that I want to get rid of. And of course, we're gonna use some reverb. So let's check this swarm reverb here. And let's just use one of these spaces here. Cathedral is always good, I guess. So this is nice, and now we can just see what happens if we deactivate one of these or two of these. So that's cool. We can also just activate legato here and then change the glide setting. So we can do some bends with this. Yeah, this is quite nice actually. You could also use, for instance, one of the macro knobs here and just put this on the pitch of these guys, of the oscillators, and then you can do the pitch bends like this. Don't forget the sub as well. Maybe a compressor at the end again. And of course, you can also just use, for instance, a hybrid filter here to cut some of the highs. And, you know, just use different distortion presets, because they really change the sound quite a bit. Also, give this a bit of attack here. Maybe try a third sound, something a bit different, maybe something like a boom. We can use just a sine wave for this. Take one of these curves and put it on a pitch, maybe around 2 octaves. Now we are just creating the generic percussive sound with this. Let's maybe use another curve on the level of this, so we can volume shape this a bit. And also let's set both of these curves to 1 shot. Maybe we can beef this up a bit with distortion and compression again. This could work. Maybe try another one. Yeah, something like this maybe. Add a compressor. So this is nice. And now some reverb. Let's just use the same one here again, the cathedral. Again, I'm just going to use this Morph EQ here for some basic EQing. We can cut the highs quite a bit, you know, because it's a boom. And again, some of the lower mids probably need some taming. Compressor afterwards. And we can also try to add another element, like a tonal element to this. Let's just use one of these wavetables here. We can use another curve for this, maybe give it some wavetable modulation here. And we can also put this on the level because as the kick is playing or the boom is playing, we don't want this to interfere too much. So we can just draw in a curve like this. And maybe put the same curve on the pitch as well so we can get some pitch movement here. And set this to one shot as well. Give it a few voices just to make it a bit wider. You can also try different pitches here. Now with the second oscillator, of course, we can also try some different effects here, maybe a bit more distortion. So you can get some really interesting sounds with these different distortion settings and compressor settings. For this specific example, this is not how I usually do it, because I would not do it in one synthesizer patch. I would just create a few booms and then create a few tonal elements and then probably have them bounce to audio and layer them afterwards, because there's not really any point in trying to do everything with one synthesizer patch, besides just experimenting like I'm doing here, because this is just to showcase some of the functionalities and some of the effects here. But yeah, so far I quite like it. I think especially the different effects this has, these are really interesting. So I'll definitely try to experiment with this a bit more. I hope that some of this was interesting to you, and maybe I will make another video on this synthesizer with a few different sounds.